Alright, so with the truck in low, keys out of the ignition, come over to the passenger side, you'll find that AHC pump reservoir. Take off the cap, take out that filter, and then just start draining the old fluid. I'm using a fluid transfer pump that I stupidly bought from like Advance Auto for 16 bucks, but Harbor Freight has the same thing for 5 bucks. I highly recommend getting that because this is so much faster than a turkey baster and it'll make your life a lot easier. So I just keep pumping out all this old nasty fluid, and then take a look at how gross this is. Look at that. It's the new fluid is a really light pink, like almost see-through, so that definitely needed to come out. So with it empty, I put the filter back in, and then just I'm filling it up with new fluid. And I tried to put in about 2 liters. That whole can is 2.5, but I try to put in most of it, just so I have enough fluid left over to coat the globe threads later. For bleeding out the old globes, you need some 3/16 inner diameter vinyl tubing, about 3 feet of it, and a 10 mil wrench. Starting on the driver's side rear wheel, this is what you're looking at here. The vinyl tubing is just friction fit onto those bleeder screws, and it's for this one in particular is kind of hard to get to, so I kind of struggled here getting it to finally seat down on that bleeder screw, but I eventually got it, and then I was able to crack that bleeder screw. Now once you crack that bleeder screw, the truck will lower itself because there's nothing holding it up. So even though it looks like I'm underneath the truck right now, I'm completely to the side of it. So you want to get out from underneath the truck. And that's what it sounds like when the fluid is leaving the globe and the truck starts to lower. I just hold it there until there's little air bubbles that you can see in the tubing. So I'm just leaving the screw open until I see those bubbles stop moving, and then they start to go back up the other way. That's how you know that everything has come out and you completely depressurize that globe. And once you're satisfied that that globe has been depressurized, you can just tighten up that bleeder screw. I just went hand tight here. And then we're ready to move on to the passenger side rear globe. And ignore this missile sound, that's just because I sped up the video, but the process is identical. You just have a lot more working room, and not much fluid's going to come out because you drained the other side and they're hydraulically linked. So as you can see, just like a drop comes out here, and then you can just tighten it back up and ready to move on to the accumulator piston, which is back on the driver's side, kind of in the middle of the tires. So just to orient you, this is underneath the driver's side front door, I think, and you can see to the left that's the driver's side front globe. So that's where it is, and the process is identical, but there's quite a bit of fluid in here, so you're going to need that jug to empty out the contents. And I don't think that the truck sinks when you do this, but again, I'm completely out from underneath it. And just correct that bleeder screw, and yeah, listen to all of that fluid. And when it starts to get foamy like that, you know you're close to the end. But keep going until you see there's that air bubble. Now it's completely drained. And then you can just scoot up to that front driver's side globe, and once again, same process, but this time the truck will lower again, so make sure, please do not be underneath the truck when you're doing this. And then we're ready to move on to the passenger side front globe. Exact same thing. This time you'll see just a little bit comes out right there, because just like the rear, they're hydraulically linked to the fronts are. So then just tighten up that bleeder screw and we're done with the bleeding process. Now we're to the fun part of actually removing the globes, and I started on the passenger side rear globe. I'm using a 36 millimeter fan clutch wrench that I rented from O'Reilly's. If you return it after you're done, there's no cost to you, so that's great. I know on the forums a lot of people grind these down because there's just a very narrow or like shallow collar to actually hold onto the globe. But with this set, I actually didn't need to do that. Um, and I'm also wearing a face shield again that I bought from Harbor Freight for like $5 because I was just paranoid of high pressure fluid spraying out. But because I properly bled the system, I didn't really need it, but I still recommend wearing one. So there's quite a few threads here, so it takes a while to get it off by hand, and the globes themselves are pretty heavy, so just make sure you're supporting it with one hand while you turn, because you don't want to damage the threads on the actual system that's attached to the truck. So there's just a little bit more turning that has to be done, but then you're about to see that, there it wasn't under pressure. That's because we properly bled it. And look at how old this globe is. I have an '05, and you can see that this is from 2004, September 23rd, 2004. So these globes definitely needed to be replaced. And here's what I replaced the rear with. Here I'm just taking some of the new suspension fluid, and I'm with a clean glove on my hand. I'm gonna put some of that fluid on the threads, just like you would on an oil filter. For reinstall, the only tricky thing is getting the threads lined up, and since it's so heavy, you just got to support it with one hand and then rotate it with the other. And because it was so heavy, I really struggled to get it lined up correctly. It's kind of awkward, but I eventually did get it to seat, and once I did, just screwed it in by hand all the way down. It's pretty easy. And then use that 36 millimeter wrench to get it fully tightened. All the other globes are going to follow this process, except the rear driver's side globe. That's the one with the least amount of working space. And so you probably will need a strap wrench. And I think this would have been easier with a regular rubber strap wrench, but this is what I had, and this is actually my first time using this style strap wrench. And so I really was struggling there. Also, on the one quick note, on the driver's side, since you're facing the threads, kind of like the bottom of the thread is facing you, it's counterintuitive. You got to really think about righty tighty, lefty loosey. So I'm actually loosening it here, and I don't get it in this video, but I eventually got it because I put on some duct tape on the globe to give it some extra grip. And you don't have to go all the way around the globe with the tape, just the part that you can see in that last video. But this really helped me to keep the strap from slipping. So I finally was able to get it off. And of course my phone died right after that, so here's some recycled footage, but it's more of the same. Like, you just got to remember to put some suspension fluid on the threads before you put them on. You won't need the strap wrench anymore. And then get them all on nice and tight. And then you're going to turn on the engine. Don't touch the height control. Leave it in low, but turn it on and let the truck get resituated and send fluid to the globes. So once it's settled, then turn the truck off and go around and individually crack the bleeder screws. Now, there shouldn't be any air in the system because we did this entire process up until this point with the engine off, and so the pump wasn't moving anything. But it's still a good idea to do this, and you're only going to crack them for a split second until you see new fluid flowing, which will be immediate. And you want to be very careful not to use up too much fluid in the bleeding, because this can only has 2.5 liters, which is the exact amount of fluid you need for a fluid change. This is going to be the cheapest way to get OEM globes. So you go to this website, Impex Japan, and type in these part numbers. The rear globes are going to be a different part number from the front globes, and you need 2 of each. So you can see the total here is, for all 4, is 61,200 Japanese yen, which equates to roughly 425 USD. This is a much better deal than anything you'll find from any US dealerships or anything on eBay. And the only thing is with this website, the company is a zero inventory type of company. So basically, you place your order of the parts, give them the money, they will order the parts for you, get them shipped to their warehouse, and then they'll be able to calculate the shipping costs to your address. So you don't pay for shipping right away, you pay for it once they get the parts in. And in my case, or in the case of 4 globes, the shipping cost is going to be $75. I ordered these at the very end of December 2023, and I think FedEx just upped their rates. So it's going to be less than $100 for shipping. And so even if you add that on top of this cost, it's less than $600, and it's way cheaper than anything else you'll find. And part of the reason for that is because the Japanese yen is very weak right now. The US dollar versus Japanese yen is at a historic high at the moment, and that's how you're able to get so much more buying power in Japan. Now, just to reiterate the whole shipping thing, it's going to be from when the time that you pay for the parts to the time you pay for shipping is probably 3 to 4 days. So, and then sometimes after you pay for shipping, Impex charges you another $2 or $3 just to get it through because they added some extra packaging or something and FedEx is charging them more. So just know that that could happen, but it's not a scam. It's not the end of the world. Just pay it. You're saving a ton of money here.